Born in Nazareth, Venerable Simone Srugi dedicated his life to loving his neighbor, embodying the spirituality of the Salesian layman. In the small town of Ramla, there are many places to visit. Hidden from most, the Pool of Arches offers a rare testimony of the architectural techniques of the Abbasids. The need to digitize a photographic heritage allows us to witness the immense archaeological activity of the Studium Biblicum Franciscanum in Jerusalem. Professor Shomali is one of the most innovative Palestinian authors in the field of culture and literature, and one of the first to be at the service of the students of the University of Bethlehem. Palestinian design embraces digital technology and combines tradition and precision of modern times. Can anything good come from Nazareth is one of the biblical verses of the Gospel of John. The facts have shown that it is possible. The Messiah was from Nazareth. The Holy Family lived in this small city of Galilee. But that is not all. A little more than 140 years ago, a certain Simone Srugi was born in Nazareth. Catholic of Greek Melkite and Maronite rite, he was baptized and confirmed in this chapel, which was the synagogue of Jesus' time, near the Basilica of the Annunciation. Not far from there are the ruins of the house where he lived with his family. He lost his parents very young, and at the age of 11 he was taken to Bethlehem, precisely to the orphanage directed by Father Antonio Belloni, founder of the Brothers of the Holy Family, which later became part of the Salesians. We visited this place where, besides breathing the atmosphere of the charism founded by Don Bosco, we learnt details of the past of this man who lived holiness in his daily life.
Qui che cosa aveva appreso? Soprattutto la devozione al Sacro Cuore.
What did he learn here? Most of all, the devotion to the Sacred Heart, to Saint Joseph and to Our Lady, because the congregation of Don Belloni was called the Brothers of the Holy Family, and that was a very sensitive, very diligent, attentive young orphan indeed. Here he learned 3 crafts, to be a baker, a tailor, and a nurse.
Imparò 3 mestieri, il fornaio, il sarto e l'infermiere.
Every day Srugi walked along these roads to reach the Grotto of the Nativity, where he prayed with the other orphans for the Salesian benefactors, and he discovered a great treasure.
E lì naturalmente Simone è stato preso dal
There, of course, Simon was filled with a great love for the child Jesus. Seeing him so small, so humble, certainly inspired him to have his spirituality characterized by great humility, great simplicity and poverty. If God made himself poor, humble, suffering, if he faced exile on his way to Egypt, I must imitate him in these virtues.
Devo imitarlo in queste sue virtù.
Don Gianni told us that Srugi immediately distinguished himself for his mercy and kindness, and that in 1892 he was admitted as a Salesian aspirant in the agricultural school of Beit Gamal, the ancient countryside of Gamaliel. He lived in a complex social context, marked by wars, poverty and diseases such as malaria, a tortuous path in which he was presented with more than one opportunity to help those in need.
Il suo carisma salesiano è stato un carisma di servizio.
His Salesian charism was a charism of service, first for the children and young orphans, and then especially for the poor who were sick, who truly sought him in the man of God who knew not only to console, to give medicine, but above all to give a word of trust and hope. People used to say that in his hands there were the strength and the grace of God, so when we entrust our sick to him, we are sure that they will recover. And the actions of this Good Samaritan of modern times were not directed only to Christians.
Io ricordo molto bene un antico allievo.
I remember very well a former pupil of Bet Gamal, a Muslim who, when he spoke of him, immediately began to cry because he remembered the beautiful moments of this man who showed much simplicity by indirectly presenting an image of God and Jesus through his goodness and his service.
Indirettamente però attraverso la sua bontà e il suo servizio.
He died in 1943, but his memory remained so alive that in 1966 he was declared a servant of God, and 50 years after his death he was declared venerable by Pope John Paul II. We could see objects that belonged to him, like small notebooks which preserve his accurate calligraphy, and prayer and meditation books in Arabic and Italian which reveal traits of his spirituality. The expectation now is that he will be elevated to the altars. For this, proof of a miracle is required.
Chiunque sente
Anyone who feels he needs his presence, his intercession, should invoke him, because he has truly given all of himself to others, and consequently understands the needs and concerns of so many people who find themselves living in poverty or sickness.
o nella povertà oppure nella malattia.
There is a place in the Holy Land where the majority of pilgrims have been making stops for centuries after arriving at the port of Jaffa, Ramla. From the Arabic word for sand, it was the only city founded by Muslims after the conquest of the Caliph Suleiman in 716.
Ramla was the first city that was built by Muslims during the 8th century. Between Jaffa to Jerusalem, the road between Cairo and Damascus, in order to provide supply for pilgrimage. The family that built Ramla was the same family that built Mosque of Al-Aqsa and Dome of the Rock at the Temple Mount.
In the center of the city, hidden from most people, there is the Pool of Arches, which offers a rare testimony of the technical and architectural qualities at the time of the Abbasids, despite the 1,300 years since its construction and the major earthquakes that destroyed Ramla between 1033 and 1087. You can enter through a series of stairs, and visitors are offered the opportunity to cross the water by boat. 15 columns support a cross vault, the oldest of its kind.
It was built, 5 water pools, the same like that, were built in Ramla. This is the only one which is open to the public. And as you can see, it's about 20 meters on 20 meters.
The Crusaders mistakenly believed Empress Helen to have built this cistern, which was instead built by Caliph al-Rashid himself from 1001 Nights to provide a constant supply of water.
You know, Queen Helena, the mother of Constantine the Great, she was Byzantine, but Ramla was not during the time of the Byzantine. It was built only during the time of the Muslims, so it's not Queen of Helena, but they called it Queen Helena pool. In Arabic, it's Birkat al-Anziya. It's a goat, because the goat, you know, some animals used to come and drink water.
With its pool of arches, the large mosque, the colourful market, as well as the small Franciscan parish dedicated to Saint Nicodemus, Ramla has attracted and fascinated for centuries. In the Holy Land, the Old and New Testaments become reality and intersect each other, thus telling the story of human salvation. The Franciscan archaeological mission has given new life to a page of history that is at the origins of Christianity. Many archaeologists over the centuries dedicated their lives to bringing to light the places we can visit today, from Father Piccirillo to Father Bellarmino Bagatti to Father Virgilio Corbo, Father Pietro Casualda, Father Stanislao Lofreda. For all of them, archaeology became a second vocation. Archaeological sites, excavations, objects or fragments, but also everyday life pictures were found among the countless films, negatives, postcards, black and white photographs. Everything has remained unchanged over time, which testifies to the immense archaeological activity of the Studium Biblicum Franciscanum in Jerusalem. I had the confidence of Father Piccirillo to work digitally. Every time I came here, he would fill my bag with films, and I made the first 10,000 scanned images in Italy. When he died, everything stopped, and I was hurt both because of the death of Father Piccirillo, but also because everything stopped.
confermo di queste immagini.
Hence the need for digitization, which began in 2012 to save a photographic heritage that would otherwise be lost over time.
Un mese o 2 mesi all'anno siamo venuti e siamo arrivati.
We come here 1 or 2 months a year, and we managed to digitize over 130,000 images. We thought we were done, but we found other images belonging to Father Bagatti, Lofreda, Father Crobo, and to Piccirillo himself and thousands of others we do not know who they are.
Lo stesso padre Piccirillo e alcuni altri non sappiamo di chi sono. Dedicarmi un po' al lavoro che stava per iniziare sul Monte Nebo padre Michele Piccirillo.
I spent some time on the work that was about to begin on Mount Nebo with Father Michele Piccirillo. I was asked if I could help. I helped in the realization of the foundations, the basis of the new basilica. On the occasion of Benedict XVI's visit in 2009, they asked me to help them again, and I made the ladder for Benedict XVI, which is still there. 5-6 years ago, Father Pio started digitizing the slides. I started with him. We've been here for more than 5 years.
La digitalizzazione delle diapositive e di Padre Pio, io sono sempre disponibile. E allora ho iniziato insieme a lui. E siamo qui da 5 anni e più.
The former president of the Italian Republic, Carlo Azeglio Ciampi, in his letter to Father Piccirillo said, "I am delighted with the vision that inspires the archaeological research of the mission. Rediscovering the past, the Franciscans of the Holy Land help the people in charge to build a future of peace." I'm doing this for Father Piccirillo. I dedicate our work to him, which is a beautiful thing, to him and to the custody, because these works have now been saved.
L'emozione è diversa perché lui...
The emotion is different. He is a Franciscan. I'm a volunteer. I'm a volunteer who loves the Holy Land. I care about it, because dedicating oneself to Jerusalem is
A
important.
Gerusalemme è importante.
أنا ولدت في بيت ساحور في عام 1946.
I was born in Beit Sahur in 1946, in this house after the family moved from the Siyar area. This house was built in 1898.
الأرض المقدسة وتم بناء هذا البيت عام 1898.
Professor Shomali's family had to emigrate to Jordan after 1948 because of political instability. Once back, he was able to graduate from high school and continued his education abroad until he obtained his PhD from the Sorbonne University in France.
ركزت بصورة خاصة
I focused in particular on the study of the cultural and literary heritage of the inhabitants of this area. I documented the history of Palestinian newspapers, published from the beginning of the 20th century up to 1948. The Palestinian press distinguished itself in large part because of its Christian pioneers from this region, and these newspapers proved the cultural heritage of the Palestinians.
كانوا من سكان هذه المنطقة المسيحيين.
Shomali is a writer who contributed effectively to the literary criticism movement in Palestine. 28 books have been published on culture, literature and heritage, not to mention the academic work at the University of Bethlehem.
تأسست جامعة بيت لحم في عام 1973.
The University of Bethlehem was founded in 1973, and in the beginning the number of students was very small, not more than 300 students. I have been here for almost 40 years and I have seen every stage of development of this university.
التي حدثت في هذه الجامعة.
The immigration of Christians from the Holy Land remains one of the issues which raised the professor's interest, especially because of the considerable increase in recent decades.
قام الفاتيكان بالتعاون مع مؤسسات الرهبان اللاساليين بتأسيس هذه.
The Vatican, in collaboration with the Lasalian Christian Brothers Foundation, founded the university to prevent the immigration of Christians from the Holy Land. Many students from Bethlehem and other Palestinian cities went abroad to study, and some of them never returned.
منهم يبقى في الخارج. فمن أجل المحافظة على الوجود المسيحي في الأرض المقدسة تم تأسيس هذه الجامعة.
The 40 years have not affected his creativity and his work for the university, a work appreciated by his students, to whom he still has much to teach. Palestinian designer Nathalie Tachan launched a groundbreaking project in fashion design using digital technology. She came up with this idea after studying fashion in London and started to direct her skills to further refine the characteristics of traditional Palestinian clothing. She gave them a modern touch to adapt them to the need of local and foreign markets. I was studying at the University of London, specializing in women's sewing. I wanted to embroider in a modern way. I started researching the origin of embroidery and learnt that it is a means of expression. Every area, every village throughout Palestine is known for its typical features. Eventually, I decided to concentrate on 5 regions: Gaza, Hebron, Jaffa, Jerusalem, and Ramallah. The designer Nathalie carried out several research and study works which characterize Palestinian clothing both in urban and rural areas, where the production of this work goes through several stages, from production and digital coloring to printing on the dress itself. One of the main characteristics of my work is the fact that I can introduce more colors into the fabric, because I use digital means which produce spectra of light. Through various designs, Nathalie contributes to the production of modern copies of original designs connected with Palestinian clothing. Her production is appreciated throughout the Arab world. Each piece is labeled with a significant "Made in Jerusalem." It is worth pointing out that embroidery is a very ancient work practiced over the previous centuries. It requires a lot of time and effort and is always an expression of a people's cultural identity.